Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and I am coming to you on this Monday, June 2nd, 2025 with essentially a May recap video. Before we get into everything, welcome everybody. Welcome to both my returning viewers as well as anybody who is new here. Perhaps you are checking out my channel for the first time. Thank you all for spending part of your day with me. On this channel, I talk mostly about cross-stitch, though sometimes I will talk about books and knitting. For a couple of reasons, we're going to stick to cross-stitch today, and we're going to simplify as much as humanly possible, given me, and the fact that I haven't filmed in very nearly a month. Yeah, it was early May the last time I was able to film an update. And now here we are at early June, which is impossible to fathom, but that's, we are here. It is June 2025. So we have a bunch of stitchy things to catch you up on. Basically everything that I have worked on in the month of May. And then I have my plans for June, and we're going to kind of end it there. I have books to talk about. I have some new stash acquisitions that are really exciting that I would like to talk to you about. But here's the thing. I tried to film, there's a couple of things. I tried to film this video on May 25th. Let me see. Yeah, May 25th. And after 2.5 hours of raw footage, I was extra chatty for some reason that day. And still found that I forgot half the things that I wanted to say, which is what always happens to me when I take breaks in between filming. If I don't film consistently, I forget things. And so there are just things that I want to say and I can't seem to get them out. And so I want to simplify today so that I can hopefully get on some sort of regular plan. Well, maybe it's summer break, so that's complicated, but anyway, so that I can say all of the things that I would like to say in my update videos. The other thing is that you may be able to hear I am congested. I am overcoming what I'm gonna call it a sinus infection. It's like not a cold, but it's not anything else either. It's a sinus infection, and so I've got this little headache, which might be a sinus headache, and I've got congestion going on, and I don't sound great, and occasionally I cough. And so simplifying sounds like a good idea. So we're going to do that. But I did bring almost everything that I worked on for May. The only exceptions to that are the 2 things that I had page finishes on. No, there was only one. So Haunted House, I showed you in my last update because I had the page finish in those first few days. But everything else I have here except for Secret Stitch, because I'm not showing you Secret Stitch. Otherwise it wouldn't be a secret. So those are the things we have to talk about. And then we will talk about some plans for June. Okay, let's get into it. Before we do, my t-shirt. If you happen to see on my Instagram stories, this past weekend I was in New York City. We had the opportunity to go see a couple of shows, a couple of Broadway shows, and we started with The Outsiders, hence the t-shirt. You may have seen the film. I think it was from the early 80s. When the film came out. I haven't seen it and I haven't read it, so I went into the Broadway show with no clue about what I was getting myself into, which was great. It was a really good show. We had a lot of fun. My mom, my brother, and I went up to New York, and then my aunt and uncle live in Albany, and so they met us in the city. And so we went and saw The Outsiders, and then we went and got some food. And then we went to go see Operation Mincemeat in the evening. We were originally booked to go see Redwoods with Idina Menzel, but that show got cut way short, and so I think the last show was like mid-May, and our tickets were for May 31st. And so we made a quick switch to Operation Mincemeat, which is up for Best Musical in the Tonys. And we went into, I think all of us kind of went into it like this is an unknown quantity. It's very popular, particularly in West End in London, and it's up for a Tony for Best Musical. But we all kind of went into it not knowing what we were getting into, and I am obsessed. I am obsessed. I loved it. I loved it so much. It broke my heart, and it made me laugh, and then it broke my heart some more, and then it was very uplifting, and it was a really great show. And so if you have the opportunity, get thee to New York to go see Operation Mincemeat. Outsiders was great too. I mean, there's no knocking that. I think Outsiders is up for is Outsiders one of the nominees for best musical? Now I don't know. But it is great. It's a really great story. It's another one that breaks your heart, and it's another one that makes you laugh, and then breaks your heart again. It was a very emotional day, but it was a really great show. It's just that The Outsiders is more of a known quantity, and Operation Mincemeat was the backup show for us, and a total surprise, and it was glorious. And I'm not going to tell you anything more about it because just in case there's anybody watching this who has plans to go see it, I don't want to ruin anything for you, but amazing. Absolutely amazing. I have the Playbills to prove it. So anyway, just thought that I would talk about that. I did get the t-shirt for The Outsiders, and then I didn't get anything for Operation Mincemeat, but I'm going to maybe a mug or a tote bag or something to that effect. They also had a t-shirt with the names on them, but I wanted this t-shirt and something else from Operation Mincemeat. So there is that. Okay, let's get into this. We have 12, though officially 11 projects that I have worked on since my last video to show you. So let's get into it. Let's get into the works in progress, and this is everything that I have worked on since my last update. I kind of organized things in categories. So when last we spoke, I was in the early days of the month of May, and for me, my plan for May was page finish May. And so I was working on full coverage pieces that were relatively close to close-ish to a page finish, and working on them towards said page finish. So when last we spoke, I had just loaded this project up on the frame, but I hadn't even worked on it at the time of that filming, and I didn't bring it to show you at the time of that filming, but it is living in this project bag here. This is a project bag by The Brass Button, and this project is April by Anna Dittman. So preview here of what this will look like finished. This is a design charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. I already said the artist is Anna Dittman. This is my oldest full coverage piece. One of the things that I forgot to say in one of my last updates was that I am now in what I would consider an elite group of full coverage stitchers. I have 20 full coverage pieces, and this is my oldest. This is my last remaining full coverage piece that is not on pre-gridded fabric because I didn't know it was a thing at the time when I started this. I started this in early April of 2016. So this project will turn 10 years old next year. I'm not going to finish it before its 10th birthday. So I guess that will make this a whip of shame as of next April. But anyway, so I was working on page 8. I stitch, for the most part, my pages in diagonals. And so I had done page 1 and then this diagonal and then page 3, and page 8 here is the one that I was focused on. So here's a full view of where I'm at currently with 5 pages finished. And then I will fold up a little bit. I have a lot of excess fabric on this one. I just haven't trimmed this one down for whatever reason. There is another 2 rows of pages, which equates to, I think, like 1 2/3 page as far as the height is concerned. So I will save some fabric here. I just haven't trimmed it down. And so move some of my parked threads away. I probably should have mentioned, if parked threads are not your thing, they're my thing. So you're going to see parked threads all over everything because of how I like to stitch. So I was working on page 8 here, and I spent 2 days on this since my last video and put in 1,781 stitches to get my page finish. So there it is. This one, particularly in these pages, I know it's going to be less true on her face page and the center of the flower, but the hair pages and the kind of background pages, the colors flow so nice. It is so soothing. It is so comforting that getting stitches quickly is not a task. It's really easy. Some of these pages are easy stitching, and that was no less true. No, I said this wrong last time. No more true than with this corner. Like I said, 2 days, 1,781 stitches. I am now at 38,055 stitches complete of 156,150 stitches total. This one is not huge, and that puts me at 24.37%. And everything is screaming at me to put this back on the frame and get it to 25% because it's so close. I am like 0.63% away from a quarter of the way on this one. That will be for a later date. Speaking of a later date, so this project was slated to be my full coverage focus on a finish for 2027. And y'all, that's not going to happen. There's no way that I'm going to manage 120,000 stitches on this project, in addition to everything else, in the next 2.5 years. There's no way. I don't prioritize this one, and it's too much of an ask. And so I have decided, with one, maybe 2 exceptions, I am pushing out my project finish goals by 1 year. I'm going to give myself an extra year on each of them. I think I ask too much of myself and the season of life to accomplish that. With my full coverage bug very much waxing and waning, I just can't commit to making this happen in the next 2.5 years. And so I think I'm going to just push them all out a year. So this one will be finished at the end of 2028, will be my new goal. Now, because this is my oldest full coverage piece, I would still like to put some more work into it this year. A lot of my full coverage pieces this year, the goal is just the page finish. So Haunted House may be done for the year because I got the page finish. With this one, I would like to do 9,000 stitches on this year because it turned 9 at the beginning of April. Just to give it a little bit more progress. So I did 1,700, so another, what is that? 7,300. It won't finish my next page, but it will get me really close, actually. So anyway, so this one I would really like to put some more effort into this year. We'll kind of see how it goes. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. This is 25 count antique white Lugana from Zweigart. It was never pre-gridded. I did mention that part. I stitched the majority of my full coverage pieces 1/1 full cross with the called for DMC. If a project calls for black, almost always I have subbed for Anchor 403 because I think it gives marginally better coverage sometimes. I feel like I have led people down a path in the past by saying that it gives, wicked good coverage. And your mileage may vary and the skeins may vary. And I'm not even sure if Anchor Black is still available here in the States. So I don't want to be misleading. It is marginally better coverage sometimes. And so I use it. So that is April by Anna Dittman. And once again, I am getting chatty. So we'll see how this goes. Oh, speaking of things. We're going to try something this video. So in my last update video, I wrapped up Springo and then did a little montage of before and afters for my Springo pieces. And myself and several other folks, that pushed some dopamine through. That pushed some serotonin through. It pushed through some happy brain chemicals. Yeah, just seeing a montage of before and afters. And so we're going to try something this video where I'm going to put my before and afters into a montage after the whips portion of the video. And I would like for you all to be honest and let me know what you think. Would you prefer the before and afters to be attached to each project? So as I have done for several years, post the before and after for 9 to 10 seconds and then move on to the next project. Or do you enjoy the massive before and afters together at the end of the whips segment? Let me know what your thoughts are. It was enlightening to me that I wasn't the only one who really enjoyed that before and after montage for my last one. But I'm curious. Regardless, I will always do before and afters because I am a self-proclaimed progress stitcher. So oftentimes people are categorized, if you will, into either process stitchers or product stitchers. Process being those who don't care about finishing things, they stitch because they enjoy the stitch, versus those who have got to get things on the wall. They've got to get things finished. You will find that full coverage stitchers are often the process stitchers and smalls stitchers are often the product stitchers. And of course there is, it is not a one or the other kind of a thing. It's a spectrum, of course. I find myself to be a progress stitcher. I don't need the finish, but I need to see distinct difference when I finish up a stitching session or a rotation. I need to see that I have indeed made progress, which is why I love my before and after pictures. I love doing that. So, and I love seeing that on other people's floss tubes. Anyway, so let me know your thoughts. Like I said, do you like them associated with the project or together at the end? Okay, 20 minutes in, let's get to our second project. Here we go. Okay, so after April, that page finish, I immediately jumped right into the next one. And that lives in this project bag. This is a bag by Pot Shoppe, and it is the perfect bag for what this project, what it holds. In here lives my Sweet Summertime. This is by Contemporary Cross. That is the Jardin company. And the artist is Andrea Lavery. So preview here of what this will look like finished. And this one was my last that I thought I was for sure going to get accomplished in the first 15 days of May. I made the decision to cut off my page finish May at the 15th. And this was the last one that I was sure I was going to get. And everything else was going to be a bonus. So here is where I am now with the page finish. My first page finish on this one. Contemporary cross pages are a little bit smaller. They're a little bit more narrow and like 3 stitches shorter. So it's not a huge, it's not majorly smaller, but it is nonetheless, it's a smaller page. But first page finish done. Oh, and I love it. I love it. I love the way that it is turning out so far. So I spent 5 days on this one. This project is more complicated than I think I expected it to be. Andrea's painting is similar to Leonid Afremov in that they both used my hawk. Thanks, bud. Okay, you can't see this, but we have a trio of adult hawks in the neighborhood, and one of them is hunting wasps right outside my window. Keeps skating across like right outside this window right here. This is so cool to see. Okay, focus, Jess. So they both use the, or used, since Leonid Afremov did pass, like the painting knives, where the paint is lathered on thick. And so you can kind of see the results of that here with the shadow of the big, thick paint strokes. And so I wasn't anticipating the confetti, the ninja stitches that happens. It's okay. I enjoy confetti and I don't mind the odd ninja stitch section here and there. But it was just, it's funny how long this one takes me. So 5 days since my last video, 5 days to get that page finished. I did 2,752 stitches. I am now at 6,741 stitches, complete of 250,000 even, which brings me to 2.70% complete. Now this project, I know for certain, Ebony over at In Stitches with Ebony, she is also working on this piece, and I believe it was her most recent video where she showed an update on it because this came up in her whip rotation. And like I said, she's further along, so head on over there so that you can see it further along. She's gotten to the yellow flower, which I would really like to get to. I'm a ways off, and this is one of those pieces that is kind of done for the day. Or done for the year, not the day. It's kind of done for the year, so we'll see. So that is where I got to with Sweet Summertime. Okay, up next is a piece that I did not expect to get a page finish on, but I did anyway. So that lives in this adorable project bag. This is a bag by Jasmine's Custom Bags. You can find Genevieve over on Instagram. She also has a YouTube channel here, and her bags go up on Instagram and you got to jump on it. So go follow her there and then hit the bell so that you can get in on her bags. This is her mini. I have several of her full-size ones, but this is a mini, and this holds my Sweater Weather. Sweater Weather is by Carolyn Manning Designs, so this is from the Shooting Star collection. It is perfectly symmetrical all the way around. And I've been asked a couple of times if I thought, if I found that repetitive, and I don't find it repetitive. It's big enough that the repetition, I don't feel that, or maybe I just enjoy it enough that that doesn't bother me. can't be sure, but I haven't found the repetition to be a problem. So this is one of my exceptions to the pre-gridded 25 count rule. This is on a 32 count cream Belfast linen from Zweigart, and I'm stitching this one 2/2 in a full cross. And this is the piece that I broke up what I had left at the beginning of the year with the intention of managing 1,600 stitches a month to see this finished at the end of this year as my full coverage focus on a finish. And then I was sick and I didn't work on it for 2 months. I didn't work on it in March or April, and made the decision to not push for the finish, to not stitch extra, to not try to catch up, to not work super hard on it, to get it done by the end of this year, to just try to work on it regularly and try to get it finished early in 2026 if I can. So I put this on the frame, and I had the first couple of rows of page 6 here. Now with this piece, I have stitched this piece in several different ways. I started up here in the top left corner and stitched the first page. And then I stitched pages 2 and 3 kind of together because, especially with block style stitching like this, I like to stitch from right to left because I like to bring my needle down where there already are stitches and bring my needle up where there aren't as many stitches or 0 stitches if humanly possible. And so I did that through page 3. And then I thought about working across the width, again working from right to left. So completing each of the diamonds or triangles from right to left. And I am very page finish motivated. Being a progress stitcher, it is harder for me to see the progress on a full width, especially if I sit down for a stitching session and I can't make it across the full width. It wasn't disheartening necessarily, but something akin to that. And so I decided to finish up page 6, and then I would move on to 5 and then 4. So that I could at least get a row of the page done in a stitching session, usually. And get page finishes, which are just highly motivating. I like the page finishes. I might even go so far as to say I need them, just to keep me going. Apologies for the truck noises. I think he's all done on my street now. Once I put this back on the frame here in June, I debated coming down here and stitching page 9 because page 9 is very little, and so I would have the page finish and the corner. But I'm going to focus on the big pages first because then it will be super fun to just knock those bottom 3 little pages out pretty quickly. So this is where I am with sweater weather. So since I last saw you, I put in 6 days into this piece, and over those 6 days I did 3,362 stitches, bringing me to 23,000 stitches complete, 23,170 stitches complete, of a total 35,721 stitches, which is 64.86% complete. So that's pretty cool numbers. Nearly 65%. As mentioned, my break it up into 12 amount is 1,600, and so I caught up with 2 months worth. So I'm still a month behind. I still have May and now June, but I am not as far behind as I was. So that's pretty cool. So that is where I am with sweater weather, and this will come out again this month. Maybe for 1,600 stitches, maybe for more if I'm feeling like it, maybe for less if I'm not feeling like it. We shall see. So that is sweater weather. up next is, so we are out of page finish May at this point. I got the page finish on Sweater Weather on May 14th, I believe, and then moved on from page finish May at that point. I very much enjoyed it. I found it to be extraordinarily successful. I had a really good time with it. I always think leading up to May, what kind of a May do I want to have? Do I want to do the Blimey Cat method, where I work on past Stitch Mania pieces on their WIP birthdays, or do I continue with page finish May, and by the time I get to the end of page finish May, I am super glad that I have done it. And definitely true this year too. So next is another full coverage piece. It's my other full coverage piece that I have to show you today. So we are going to switch over to, I'm going to call it my event stitching. I am doing a lot. I'm doing a lot right now. So we have the Giro d'Italia that wrapped up yesterday, June 1st. Wrapped up yesterday. I got behind because I was out of town. And so I am just about finished with that challenge. I have one more day's worth of stitching to catch up on. So I'm doing that event. And that had a... so with that event, the Giro d'Italia is a bike race that took place in Italy. And they had a scheduled amount of kilometers that the racers would bike each day, and so we would stitch the number of stitches equivalent to that on our chosen projects, and there were a whole bunch of different ways that people were doing this. I chose Snow Castle for mine. So let's talk about this, and then we'll talk about my other event stitching. I still have this on my Lavery clamp because I am working on this today, trying to wrap up Giro d'Italia. So this is Snow Castle by Heaven and Earth Designs. The artist is Randal Spangler, and it just occurred to me I should pull my parked threads out of the way a little bit. Just get them out of the way, because this is in a Q-snap. Now, the unfortunate thing about my May 25th video not working out is that I had it out of the Q-snap for that, and then too much time was passing, and so I put it back in the Q-snap. Did I say it? Preview of what this will look like finished? I hope so. So let me talk about what I did and then what I'm doing currently. So again, a 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart, 1/1 full cross with the called for DMC anchor black instead of DMC 310. And what I did is finish page 8. So in my last video, I had finished page 7, and at the time I was kind of stitching long diagonals that included page 8 as well. And over the course of the Giro d'Italia, I was able to get page 8 finished mid last week sometime. So that was pretty cool. And then late last week, I started on page 9 here, which is the last page of the row. So you see this fabric here, the tartan looking fabric is my, it's the fabric that helps my Q-snap hold on real nice and tight and gives me drum-like texture, or tension. That's the word. I have fallen in love with full coverage Q-snap stitching. I'm in love with it. I don't know what it is, but it is working for me. I'm like really in a good place with it. However, Snow Castle is a very narrow project, and I have it on a fairly narrow piece of fabric. And I'm going to run into this with full coverage Q-snap stitching because I have certainly gone a little bit frugal on these side margins for a lot of my full coverage pieces. Anyway, for the purposes of this one, in order to continue with Q-snap stitching with it, I had to sew on some fabric, and so I bought a 2-yard length of some fabric from Michael's, pulled out my sewing machine, found that I had to rethread it, managed to rethread it without any issues. I was like, whew, this feels really good. Like I just felt like it was all clicking. And got that fabric sewn on. So I'm going to show you the back here, so that you can see my seam there, just to give me the extra margin, so that I can put this in the Q-snap. It's very roughly done, and my fabric that I used is not serged, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to serge it, because otherwise it's going to fall apart. Like this bit here is just going to fall apart. But in the meantime, it works for now, which was really what I was going for. I got it done as quickly as possible. I didn't even bury my threads or do anything with them. You can kind of see them up here. There's my sewing thread there. But that's okay. So got that done, got this loaded back in the Q-snap, and now I am steadily working on page 9 here. So since my last video, I stitched on this for 19 days, and that includes today. I have done 3,714 stitches since my last video. The Giro d'Italia stitching I have done is 3,286 stitches, but the Giro d'Italia had rest days every Monday, and I would throw in extra stitches on this. Excuse my stomach if you can hear that. I haven't eaten lunch. I would throw the extra stitches those days into this project because I am obsessed with it, and I am finding full coverage to be really easy right now. It is, I guess I'm in the zone for full coverage stitching. And this was my focus on a finish for next year, for 2026. But again, I think I'm pushing it to 2027. Because at the end of... Okay, so this piece I am also using for full coverage whip go. Basically what I do is when the whip go numbers come out, I multiply the number of the space on the board by 100 and put that many stitches into this piece. By the end of it, that's 32,500 stitches into this piece at a minimum by the end of the year. If I do that, I'm leaving myself roughly 55,000 stitches to accomplish next year if I was to stick to my 2026 finish goal. And I just don't know if I'm there. Like, I am obsessed with this and I am enjoying my stitching time with it, but I also know that that can be fleeting. I go through phases. You don't get to 97 works in progress and only 20 of them being full coverage without being a little bit flighty and my interests changing. I've got every style practically represented in my whips. I have full coverage, I have fancy, I have geometric, I have samplers, reproduction samplers, as well as original samplers. I have more modern things. Anyway, so I know it's fleeting, my love obsession with this right now, and I'm gonna ride it until the wheels fall off. But I'm also going to adjust my plans accordingly. So, like I said, I'm working on page 9 here. And we'll get this page finished this month and get into page 10, dipping into plans a little bit. The full coverage number, the whip go numbers, I released them on the 25th, and I need 4,400 stitches into this piece this month. The numbers were high for the month of June, so this is going to see a lot of love, and I will explain how here in just a little bit. So let's see, back to my statistics. I am now at 54,567 stitches complete of a sum total 126,000 stitches, which brings me to 43.31% complete. So making my way downtown. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm probably gonna leave that in. Making my way. No, there's no way to say that without wanting to sing Michelle Branch. Making some progress. Oh, there we go. So this will be my project for today, and I will finish out the Giro d'Italia. My other event stitch has been going since officially, I believe, May 5th, unofficially May 6th. And this is hashtag whip into shape. You may have heard, if you've watched my recent videos, I know several folks all over FlossTube are doing this. Andrew, the runner stitcher, is running a marathon at the end of August, and so he created a stitching challenge in which we are to stitch 10 stitches for every mile that he runs while training for said marathon. And he's come up with a training plan, and he has a Google spreadsheet where he is updating what he actually does each day, so that we can stitch along. He also has described a time version, so he is also reporting how long it takes him to run that mileage each day, so that you can stitch for the minutes. Now, being me, I couldn't do just 10 little stitches for each mile. I've got to take it further, apparently. And so I decided to go with 26.2 stitches per mile that Andrew runs while he is training. And so we are very nearly a solid month into this, and I am having so much fun. This is another one where I'm just having a blast. Andrew has regular rest days, and so I'm not working on this every day, but at least 5 days a week, I would say. Yeah, about 5 days a week I am putting stitches into this. And I decided to go with The Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. I want to pause here and say thank you to everybody who sent me their input, their ideas for what to do for Whip into Shape. I had lots of great ideas from you all. A lot of folks who know me and who know my risk for burnout, or those of you who just submitted just really great alternate ideas. I had quite a few folks say, well, why don't you put those stitches into sweater weather? And I thought about it. I mean, I really did. I thought about it. I thought about sweater weather as my Whip into Shape piece because, first of all, it's geometric, and so whip into shape, it's kind of like a double entendre or a double meaning. Whip into a shape. But also, by the end of this, I will do nearly 15,000 stitches, and that would finish the piece at the end of August, which would have been cool. I mean, that would have been cool. Here's the thing. I needed this to be a Q-snap project. I needed it to be something that I could put in a Q-snap. And I will not do Q-snap stitching with two-stranded projects. I won't do it because I hate squish stitches. I can't stand squish stitches. I won't subject sweater weather to that either. I don't know how you all do it. How do you stitch your two-stranded stitching on a Q-snap without squish stitches? How do you do that? Or is there aftercare for that? I don't know. I haven't worked it out. I cover my stitches with both the fabric from my project, if I have any overlapped fabric that I can lay over top of my stitches in a Q-snap. I have, you saw the tartan fabric on Snow Castle. I have offcuts of a bunch of pieces of fabric that I can use for that. I have felt shelf liners if necessary, access to paper towels, things like that I could use to protect my stitches, but it doesn't ever work for me for the 2-stranded stitches. So, and I needed this particular planned project to be a Q-snap piece. It had to be friendly to being a Q-snap piece. Also, ideally, it needed to be a pattern keeper project because it's a lot easier to have an idea of where I am when I'm aiming for just 79 stitches. It's a lot easier to stop right at 79. So anyway, I decided to go with Fruits of Plenty, and I'm really glad that I did. I have, like I've said, I've loved getting to work on this most days. And I'm finding the hardest part of this challenge is stopping. I don't want to stop. I don't want to. I don't want to. So, let me show you my progress so far on the Fruits of Plenty. And I've got park threads on this one too. Oh, that one's attached to a needle. Okay, let's move that. There we go. I park on everything, y'all. Okay, so here's where we are with the Fruits of Plenty. So preview here of what this will look like finished. Got things happening here. There we go. This is the mock-up that Jacob provides. His is obviously in shades of blue. Mine I am doing in DMC's 3041 and 3042. And here's where I've gotten to so far through Whip into Shape. Oh my goodness, I am loving the progress here. So I have not quite finished this vignette. For whatever reason, I haven't taken the opportunity to finish out one berry, and one of these is repeated here. And then that vignette will be done. I don't know what my hang up is and why I haven't taken care of that, but I have definitely worked all over the place with this. I spent some time up here. I finished this little mini vignette. I've been working down here. Lately, I've been working in this just to get a bunch of stitches in. Yesterday for training, Andrea did 12 miles yesterday, and for me, that translated to, flip it back, 314.4 stitches, which I ended up doing 319. So, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, just a lot of fun. So, one thing I do need to mention, if you are jumping in on this, is to be sure that you are checking Andrew's spreadsheet each day, because sometimes, because of life or because of the weather or what have you, he's had to move things around, and he updates the spreadsheet every day. So just be aware of that. We've had quite a few opportunities, or quite a few days where the plan has changed. So just be aware of that. Let's discuss this. I have worked on this for 19 days since my last video, and I have done 3,020 stitches into my Fruits of Plenty. That brings me to 4,653 stitches complete out of 47,397, 9.82% complete. So I'm knocking on the door of that 10%. And so I should expect that will happen this week. So yeah, this is fun, and it's good and easy stitching, and it's great in the Q-snap. I'm using an 11 by 11 Q-snap, by the way, if anybody is curious. So we went to New York this weekend, as I mentioned, and I wanted so badly to take this with me on the train. We took the train into New York. I wanted so badly to get a picture of this with the New York City skyline as we were coming in, and I couldn't fit it into my bag. We were traveling as light as possible, and I couldn't fit it into my bag. So, I wasn't able to bring this with me, but I would have thought that it would have been cool to work on this in New York. but it didn't happen. That's okay. So that is where I am with Whip into Shape with Fruits of Plenty, and this will get regular work. I think today is a rest day, and so I'll work on this again tomorrow. So I'm basically working on like 3 projects a day. I work on Snow Castle for the Giro d'Italia. I work on Fruits of Plenty for Whip into Shape, and then oftentimes the stitch counts required are pretty low, and so I then move on to something else. And so that has certainly given me opportunity to get a lot of things accomplished in the month of May. Pulled the final stack of whips closer to me, and so we'll get into everything else. I think in my last video I mentioned my new whip go board, which is a Focus on a Finish whip go board. And so I took the spaces left for whip go and filled those spaces with my Year of Whips pieces, for which I had 10 eligible. I finished one, and then I have Sweater Weather that I'm working on each month. And so I took the 10 remaining and randomly sprinkled them out amongst the remaining spaces, and some of them got doubled up. So the whip go calls for May, I think, were 5 and 19, if I'm not mistaken, or was it 4 and 19? It doesn't matter. It corresponded to my next 2 projects. So for that Focus on a Finish whip go board, I have decided to set the goal at 4 days or 1,500 stitches, whichever comes first. Or if I decide to fill out the 4 days and go well beyond the 1,500 stitches, then I'm giving myself the grace to be able to do that. But the basic goal is 4 days or 1,500 stitches. So the first one that I worked on lives in this project bag. This is a stitch and button bag. I cannot believe we made it an hour into this video, and this is my first stitch and button bag. But there you have it. This project bag holds what I would consider the most perfect project for it. In here is my Lady Halloween. So Lady Halloween is by Jardin Prive. The irony of that statement is that Lady Halloween is cute Halloween. This is an adorable project. It is not as perhaps scary as this one, but anyway, as this fabric. So Lady Halloween, like I said, is by Jardin Prive, and it is charted. There's 2 versions that you get when you get the chart. It is either monochromatic or it is black and 2 shades of gray. So virtually monochromatic, just using shades of gray. Being the Hokie that I am, the Virginia Tech alum that I am, when I think fall, I think maroon and orange, and so I am stitching mine in black and maroon and orange. And here is where I am currently. Oh, I love this. So this is on a 32 count Belfast linen in Partly Cloudy by Fortnight Fabrics, which unfortunately you can't get anymore. And their fabrics are wonderful to stitch on, so it really is our loss. But anyway, I'm stitching this 2/2 with Anchor Black, and then DMC 902 for the maroon and 922 for the orange. And I am steadily working on this. I got a digital version, so it goes into Pattern Keeper, which is lovely. It is not perfect in Pattern Keeper because Jardin Prive very helpfully provides notes kind of all over the chart, and Pattern Keeper interpreted those notes as stitches, and so there is some different things going on. Like there are notes for which color to use for the back stitch for this spider here, etc. And it interpreted those notes as stitches. There's also notes for if you are converting to totally monochromatic, how to handle certain elements. So some elements are duplicated on the bottom of the chart. So my numbers are close, but they're not exact. So when I tell you that since my last video, I worked on this for 4 days and did 1,531 stitches, that is actually accurate. However, this statistic will be a little bit skewed. I am now at 4,968 stitches complete of a total 13,383 stitches, bringing me to 37.12% complete. I am stitching this one typewriter method, but snake variety. In the sense that I started over here and I completed the 10 by 10 block, and I let the thread go as far as it could. I can get somewhere between 40 and 50 stitches if I can out of a length on this one, and so I will take it as far as it will go, or I will carry it to a motif in the next block. So I complete the 10 by 10 block, work the thread in as far as it will go, and then move on to the next one. And I do that across the width of the piece, and then I work across the width this direction. So it is snake style in that way, which is why I have a lot of incomplete motifs. It explains why these diamonds come down here, but this isn't complete, and why her hair is complete to this line, but yeah, and why there's bits and bobs of the tree still left to do. So that explains all of that. I had a lot of fun working on this, and I wanted to spend some more time on it, and also I was ready to move on to my other Focus on a Finished Whip Go piece for the month. So there is Lady Halloween. This will come out again for Focus on a Finished Whip Go. However, 1,500 stitches is not going to get it finished. That will get me to a sum total of 6,500 stitches, 7,000 stitches, at most, like if I push it a little bit. So I don't know that I'm going to finish this one. So I have this as one of my Year of Whips pieces. Year of Whips is an event that is hosted by Melanie of the Soulful Stitcher here on FlossTube. You can't join the challenge at this point. It's open for a couple of weeks at the end of the year towards the beginning of the year, and then she shuts it down, and it is limited only to the people who get in and get going by the deadline. But the stipulations for it are you need at least 10 projects in your Year of Whips, and you need to finish at least half of them by the end of the challenge to qualify for any kind of giveaways or anything. The giveaways aren't necessarily the thing for me. Like, that's cool, and so I will try to finish at least half, but it's not necessarily the reason that I do this. I play Year of Whips because I like the intended focus on getting some things done. This one I may not get done this year, and I'm okay with that. I will try to get it done next year. So that is my progress thus far on Lady Halloween. Not sure when that will come back again. Whip Go will tell me. Up next is Living in This Project Bag. This was my other Focus on a Finished Whip Go. And this one I very desperately wanted to stick with to the finish because I am close enough that I think a couple of extra days would have gotten it done. However, my thread stash had something else to say about it. And so on this one, you're going to see a bunch of incomplete in-progress motifs. And less to do with the method and more to do with I ran out of the color that I desperately need to be able to finish the motif. So this is Promise of Spring. Promise of Spring is by Cottage Garden Samplings from her Songbirds Garden series. This is number 4, featuring the American Robin and some tulips. Super, super pretty. I absolutely adore this piece. And this is my Songbirds Garden focus for this year. I'm stitching this on 32 count Belfast linen in Seaside by Fabrics by Stephanie. And this was a Springo piece, so it got a good amount of love in April, and then another 1,570 stitches here in May. And I definitely worked all over the place because of my thread stash. I have now fixed it. I have picked up the 4 threads that I was missing for this piece. And I'm not talking about like I didn't have it in my kit. I'm talking about I didn't have any in my house. Without pilfering from various projects, I didn't have any. It was really kind of silly that I should be totally out of that many colors. I've got to get my thread stash, my full set under control and sorted out. So I was working in the bottom half here, and I started with finishing out the robin, and he is complete. So feet standing on the flower pot, tail feathers, body, I think I had more of his belly and chest to do, and tail feathers. And he is all finished, looking regal, looking fantastic. Then I came over here and decided to work on some of the green work because I knew I was going to try to get into the flower pot. And so I brought the stems down, and here got going on one of the little leaves and realized that I didn't have any 320. So I'm stalled there. I mentioned previously I'm stalled here because I'm out of 3740. So that one is stuck. So then I came over here, mapped my way over, counted 100 times to start working on the house. And I have just this little bit left of the house to do because I ran out of 535. So I got stalled there. I like to stitch things in a certain order. I can be very, very particular about what I call my order of operations. And so I could not continue with, for instance, this leaf until I get the 320 to fill in this section. I can't continue with it. I can't do this leaf until I do the 320 here first. I can be very particular about that, but it is what it is. That's who I am. So then I was like, okay, if I'm going to get to 1,500 stitches, I'm going to come down here and work on the flower pot. And again, I've got to work on things in my particular order, and I was out of the yellow that I needed for the next little bubble there. Or maybe it's the orange. That looks like the orange. No, it's the yellow. So, the yellow there. It's a yellow orange on the charted version. It was just almost a comedy of errors, or a comedy of thread stash. So I was able to get my 1,500 stitches, like I said, in 2 days. And the next time this comes out, I'm going to work on it to the finish. If it takes me beyond the 4 days, so be it. I'm going to get this one finished the next time it comes out. Unfortunately, that is not here in June. And I would really like it to be. But it's not. So that is where I am with Promise of Spring. Speaking of the threads, I am using the DMC conversion that Vinny provides. All of these were charted in Weeks Dye Works on Weeks Dye Works fabrics. I don't use Weeks Dye Works for the most part when I can avoid it. I converted to DMCs for these. And so mine are all going to look a little different than the originals, but they're close enough. They're close enough. So that is the progress on Promise of Spring. And I will have a good little bit of this seaside left to do something small on. So that's pretty cool. So there we go. Like I said, I do have those DMCs now, so I can go back to this and get it done. I am making an executive decision here. My voice is really trying to give out. And I could pause and go have some lunch and some tea, but I don't know if it's going to make enough of a difference. So I'm going to stop here today. It is not ideal because I have 3 more WIBs to show you, technically 4 more WIBs to talk about, and then my plans for June, and we are into June. But my throat is trying to stage a coup, and I would like to maintain my voice and to not make it worse. So I think I'm going to cut this off here. Yeah, this is not ideal. However, I may try to come back and film on Friday, which is in just a few days. And so I will catch you up at that point. And then perhaps I can tack on, we can talk about some books and some extra things. I think it's the right move. I'm sorry for the abrupt ending. I know you weren't anticipating it. But it's gonna have to be because it's falling apart here. So I thank you. This feels so weird. It feels so weird. But I thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support of me and my channel. I hope that you're well. I hope that you're stitching. Okay. I'm gonna go. Happy stitching, like I said. And I will see you in the next one, probably on Friday, unless I lose my voice altogether. All right, take care. Bye, y'all.